long my internet will last. All right, Mikey, we are live. We're here, which I
Which is
had
something
serious doubts
we've been
this
here all
was
along. You just
all
couldn't
going to
hear
happen.
each other. We
Say
were
again?
here. We were here all along. We just couldn't hear, see, or work with each other.
Yeah. Your volume is really low. I don't know what's going on.
111. Hello, hello, hello.
That's a little better. Yeah. Anyway, so technical problems aside, we're here. We're back. It's Wednesday, and boy, has the never a dull moment when you're living in 2024. That's for sure.
No dull moments. By the way, the bridge from Mercer Island to Seattle can't fall down even if a boat hits it because it's floating already. It's already fallen down. It's a time-saving device to build it right on the water.
Well, yeah, that's. That's just tragic. I mean, there's so many different levels of concern there. Number one is obviously that the bridge is no longer there,
Called.
which is tragic, and for people who have to go over that bridge, and I've been over that bridge. If you go into the port of Baltimore for anything, which happens to be one of the top automotive importing ports in the world.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, most of I had a list somewhere. I had a list of the manufacturers, but there's several manufacturers that bring their cars in to Baltimore.
Port of
For
entry.
probably tax reasons. I'm sure it's probably less expensive to bring them in there than it is. Anyway, it is a major port as far as automotive goes. So not having that port is, I mean, I don't know how long they're going to be out. I mean, I can't imagine that they'll get that thing up and running, in 90 days at least. So that's going to seriously, jam up the car business. That's the least of the worries right now. I mean, I think the number one worry
for it as well. So
is to get that.
Okay, sounds fun.
What do you call it? Recover the bodies of the people that were on that bridge.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Of course.
By the way, which were all immigrants
cool.
From Central and South America.
Each and every one of them. Every one of them.
Every one of them. That right there is the vermin, the poisoning of the blood of America.
Okay.
That so many people feel like, especially a presidential candidate from from the Republican Party feels like those are the people that should be kicked out of the country.
It sounds fun,
The
but
people that are full of potholes at
potholes
2 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, so that you can drive over that road safely. That's who he wants to kick out of the country. I'm just, it bothered me so much when I heard that. It's a sad incident to begin with, but to think that here's 6 guys that go to work. Some of them probably don't even speak English that well, but they're taking these jobs because it's the jobs they can get, and they get hit by some ship hitting a bridge that you would never think in a million years would go down. Yet it did.
It came down in a hurry.
It was like a movie. I mean, you couldn't have special effected something to happen like that. It was unbelievable to watch that tape. The video of that it was like in a horror movie.
I've been able to confirm this, but I think there may have been more people working on the bridge than there actually were in the crew on the ship.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you get, I guess, what happens is they have a pilot that comes on board the ship and gets it out of the harbor and into the sea. So it's not a point of unfamiliarity with the bridge, or so I didn't know the bridge was there. I don't know
No,
how many people.
it was the loss of power that caused all the problems.
Yeah, I don't know how many people it takes to run a ship. It depends on which expert that they've dug out between CNN and MSNBC and everybody else uh, who were
You think Fox
scrambling yesterday to find
can Fox
experts.
can Fox News bring itself to actually cover this story in terms of the who, what, where, when, and how, or do they have to make up something else? Like the bridge didn't
I
come
don't know.
down.
I don't watch Fox News, so I wouldn't.
The bridge disappeared because it was spirited away by aliens.
I used to watch Fox News, just to kind of see what the other guys are doing, see what and it's become so disgusting and so much of a propaganda piece for Donald Trump and the conspiracy theorists and all of those. Of course, they were out in full tilt boogie. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's become such a mouthpiece for them that I can't watch it anymore. Again, I used to watch it just to, you kind of check on what the other people are doing, what the people, you still look around and
it's that attitude of we'll all get into it and we'll all be even-handed and we'll all be fair to one another and we'll all keep track of one another. Yeah, that's a bunch of crap. And that's what got NBC in trouble this week. Real big trouble with its own people.
Well, yeah, and anyway, I want to finish up on the bridge. It wasn't. Let's see that the collision happened at 1:35 in the morning. By 6:35 yesterday morning, one remarkably right-wing talk show host was on the air and on YouTube with his conspiracy theory that it was not done.
Does he know who did it? Can he come? Can he tell us?
It was not an accident. It was done intentionally. And then I heard another one this morning that they let get on CNN, who said that the bow of the ship was so perfectly aligned up with the collision, with the point of impact, that it could have been nothing else but some kind of attempt at bringing down the bridge.
Even though they couldn't steer it, it was perfect.
It was perfect. So you already have the nut jobs already are trying to get clicks, and that's why I won't name the former Seattle talk show host that was on the air with this. But I find it repugnant. I just
But Vinnie, you're taking it too seriously. It's just show business to these people. It's just Fox business. It's just make up something and run with it, and maybe CNN will call you and you get to be on TV for a while. It's the American way.
Yeah, I'm sure CNN will. I'm sure somebody along the line at CNN or MSNBC or one of these, or Newsmax or one of these stations will at some point get this clown on the air and give him 10 minutes to espouse his ridiculous conspiracy theory on this thing, and there'll be enough of the base that will listen to it and say, wow, well, that makes a lot of sense. I can't wait to talk to my first Trumper.
It all adds up. It all adds up. It all makes perfect sense now that I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, we have the photos to prove it.
And we have an ex-Seattle disc jockey to enforce the who, what, where, when, and how. That's how it happened.
We have credible people. Admiral Sweps from the Ginger Ale Battalion.
Dr. Hackenbush.
Yeah, is is ready to come on and blow this whole thing open. He has the proof.
It's been
He
there all
has the proof.
along, staring us in the face. We just didn't see it.
He's just waiting for Mike Lindell to go first with his proof before he goes, because he doesn't want to upstage Mike, who's been working on his proof.
You know, if that bridge had been covered in pillows, it wouldn't have come down. He told them that. He gave them.
Actually, oddly enough, that you say that, was somebody on this morning, the same guy who was hinting. He didn't come straight out and say it was a conspiracy or an intention, but he was hinting. And the reason that he was hinting is because the abutment, the support of the bridge, was not protected with cushions or pillows that would have
stopped a 99-ton vessel.
Yeah, that would have fended off the 8-knot-an-hour speed of 100,000 tons headed directly for this bridge abutment that, knowing Baltimore, was probably built with substandard concrete.
You know, KNX, the news station here in Los Angeles, did a story yesterday that I found interesting. You know how it is when something bad happens in your town, we take the story and see if it could happen in our town. That's
Right.
that's how we do the reporter thing. And that couldn't have happened at the Port of Long Beach because the supports for the bridge across the Port of Long Beach are not in the water. They're on the land. So you can't hit them with a ship. There's nothing you can hit at all out there with a ship or a helicopter or a wayward submarine,
Airplane,
anything. And I found that to be an interesting change in construction. I'm sure that they would have happily built the Francis Scott Key Bridge differently back in the 1930s or 1940s had they ever thought, we don't have to put these supports in the river. We can put them on land and stretch the bridge without that kind of support.
Well,
change where the supports are anchored.
Yeah, I mean, knowing the length of that bridge, I don't think that could have been done. I think the bridge, the main span of the bridge, is too long. And actually, that bridge was built in 1972.
Wow.
So, much of the more modern technology was probably not the stuff they have today. Well, like when they put up the Bay Bridge or what they will use now, that we have so much technology that's different even from back in 1972. But I do find it interesting, though, that this thing was not built to resist a ship hitting it. When you have when you have supports, abutments in the water like that, you would think that they would sink them and build them that.
I wonder if 1970. I wonder if 1972 the ships were that big. I don't think they were.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm not that. I'm not an expert on that. I think that it does bring to mind the question of what happens if a ship hits. Well, we know the floating bridge. I mean, we know that it's going to float. There's nothing supporting it, so that's just going to move it out of the way. But the Verrazano Narrows
could destroy it though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it'll sink in. It'll do something to it. I just wonder though. It just seems that when you would design a bridge like that you would design it to withstand a certain amount of impact. And the one thing that the guy who was going toward the conspiracy theory on CNN this morning said, that why weren't there these deflectors, not just at the bridge abutment, but coming out of the harbor? There should be these kind of deflectors that would move a ship headed straight toward that abutment off it. But it doesn't seem like they were present. And again, this is all stuff that will be investigated by the NTSB, but everybody's doing that same story. How does it affect us? Could this happen here? And there's many people who won't drive over a bridge this morning because of it.
Well, those tankers, those type of cargo vessels that carry so many of the load-on, heavy loaded, well-stacked containers, shipping containers, don't go into every port. They're further out than that. They don't go up the river and to access unloading. In San Francisco, for instance, they go across the bay and they unload in Oakland. They don't unload in San Francisco.
Right.
And to get across the bay, they have to go under the Golden Gate Bridge. So that bridge is vulnerable in that respect. And they have to go to Alameda to unload, so they have to get under the Bay Bridge as well. But there's no deflectors. I don't think a deflector would make any difference to a 100-ton to a 99,000-ton vessel. They backed that ship right off that bridge. You notice that there was nothing wrong with the ship. Didn't sink, didn't take on water. They just backed it off and took it away.
Which ship? The one that
hit the bridge. It's not sitting out there in the river anymore.
I thought it was. I saw a video of it just a little while ago. It was still sitting there. I don't think they're moving that ship until. I don't think they can move that ship. A big piece of.
I saw an overhead, and it looked like it was the ship wasn't there anymore.
I don't know. A big piece of the bridge. A huge section of the bridge was laying across the front of the ship. So I don't. I would have. It would seem to me that they're not going to move much of that until they recover the bodies. But I could be wrong. I haven't looked at it in the last few minutes. They're not just going to back the ship up. They have to cut that section of the bridge that's laying on top of the ship. I would think. Again,
well, I could be wrong. I saw an overhead shot of it, and it didn't include the ship.
I don't know where. Yeah, did I just do with my phone? Yeah, I would think it to be tough to move that bridge, to move that. You can't just back the tanker off of it. From what I saw, the bridge was laying right across the bow of the ship. But yeah, I think that.
Well, I guess it's still stuck in the bridge. I thought it was moved.
Yeah, no, I don't think they can.
Because they boarded it.
Yeah, they boarded it, and
they get the black box,
the recorders off of it. But I don't think that. Yeah, I think they're going to have to cut the bridge.
So the unnamed talk show host from Seattle didn't have access to the black box. He didn't actually board the ship. He didn't do any personal investigation. He just took a wild guess.
They never do, Michael. When do they ever do that stuff? It's laughable that you would espouse a conspiracy theory. First of all, less than 24 hours after it happened, you must really have some good contacts. It's just all bullshit clickbait stuff. It's somebody was going to insert themselves in this. This clown decided he was going to be the first while the bodies were still lying in the water.
I want to know what Bobby Kennedy thinks. Robert Kennedy Jr. Don't we have any idea about this was caused by some sort of a mumps vaccination?
I'm starting to not like what Bobby Kennedy Jr. thinks. He's starting to annoy me.
Now Vinnie's been famous for the slow burn, but this is the slowest burn of them all. Suddenly, Bobby Kennedy's gotten under his skin.
Yeah, he's annoyed me. to no end, and now his pick of some Silicon Valley
Tech lawyer.
tech venture capitalist, you know, is even.
Would you start your company? Would you start your company with a woman who went to law school and starts companies but doesn't believe in science, doesn't believe in mumps, measles, or rubella?
Well, she's got money, and she's living proof that you could buy your way onto a ticket.
And she did just that.
She's one of his major financial backers. And so it gives her that access money-wise. And I guess she just said to him, hey, you know what? If I'm gonna dump all this money, and I guess I'm gonna be your vice presidential candidate, which, in itself qualifies you for so many things. And because I think they're up over a certain percentage of the vote, they'll probably be subject to some kind of Secret Service protection and crap like that. I don't know.
But what if she doesn't believe in the Secret Service? What if they actually believe?
Well, maybe she can find unvaccinated Secret Service people. It's the whole system is really.
I think about 2 months before the election, she'll say, "You said vacation." No, I said vaccination. Oh, I thought you didn't believe in vacations. Well, I'm out. I can't go for that.
Find things out about those Kennedy boys that she might not have wanted to find out. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Find out he's got all his shots. Well, you said I said you shouldn't get your shots, but I'm no idiot.
Yeah. It's really everything's good for you, but not for me. My kids are vaccinated. I don't know. I'm just I thought it was a kind of a funny Kennedy's running. Matter of fact, this woman is one of the people who financed that Super Bowl campaign.
Yeah, she came up with $7 million.
Yeah, she came up with money. Another Trump right-wing guy. I mean, I think Trump was all for this when he thought it was going to take votes from Joe Biden. But as many of the polls are now showing that RFK Jr. may wind up taking as many votes from Trump,
of course,
as he does from Biden.
He appeals to their mindset, if you want to forgive the phrase.
And in that case, it's going to make it quite interesting. But it's
maybe she can give Trump that $175 million he needs.
Well, he seems to be having no trouble raising it, Michael.
He hasn't paid it.
Well, he hasn't paid it, but he's had a couple of really good days on the stock market. He took his Truth Social Trump media company public, and there seems to be the stock has gone up. It sold off yesterday. The initial offering sold, and now today the stock is up 15%. So, which means that if you bought Truth Social yesterday and you sell it today, you made 15% on your money in one day. I wouldn't buy anything with a Trump name on it.
So right now it's worth more than Odyssey stock, the former CBS.
Right now it's worth more than General Motors. I mean, it's worth so much that it vaulted Trump into the top 500 richest people in the world. He was not on that list before. He is today. He's in at like 367.
And then when he writes a check, he'll be off the list again.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's all paper money. I mean, it doesn't. You can't convert it into cash, especially if you're a principal of the corporation. I don't think you can sell that stock for 90 days or something like that.
So he's still trapped with that $175 million paycheck that he has to write. Well, it was 464, but it got reduced for no reason whatsoever to 175.
Well, he's the former president. you always want somebody who can pardon you in your corner. So, I think that somebody would be more likely to give him the 50 million or whatever it is,
75.
175 million if they knew that their kid got into trouble, that Trump could pardon him. I remember once, a long
Maybe
time
P,
ago, I was in a suite.
maybe perhaps P. Diddy will sponsor his
Yeah.
presidential aspirations.
I remember one time, not too, years ago, I was in a suite at the Key Arena, and I knocked on the door of the bathroom, and I walked in, and Governor Gary Locke was in the bathroom.
Didn't lock the door. Locke didn't lock
And he
the
didn't
door.
lock the door. He just left it open. I guess he figured there would be a guard, but there was no guard outside. I thought it interesting to where I said to him, I got to tell you, it's always nice to be in a bathroom with somebody who can pardon you. If you're Italian from New York, you you realize what an asset that could be. And he laughed, and I laughed, and he walked out, and I took a piss. So maybe that's the deal. Maybe it's the closeness of wanting to be with somebody who could pardon you for something.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, and keep your lawyer very close, and keep his lawyer close.
Yeah, keep your lawyer in the other room. So, yeah, but it's pretty amazing, isn't it, that Trump all of a sudden comes up with this money, which many people are saying is just a way to circumvent campaign donation identification. If you buy stock, you're making Trump richer.
You can be anybody doing anything.
Right. You can be anybody. Vladimir Putin can buy 1,000 shares of Trump. Matter of fact, he probably has.
What a misunderstood guy he is. He's just totally misunderstood.
Trump or Putin or both?
Putin, he used to drive gigantic cargo ships into bridges in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, well,
during the summer months when he was a kid.
When he was a kid, that was before he was a KGB guy. Never trust anybody with the one eye that looks this way and the other eye that looks that way. I never could quite trust Peter Falk. He had the one eye going that way and the one eye going. They got Shingata, they call it in Italian, cockeye.
Shingala?
Shingata. He's a little Shingata. He's got a cockeye. Probably politically incorrect for me to say. It's probably going to get a letter from the cockeye people of America. But I don't know. I always remember the guy. There was a guy at the Department of Motor Vehicles who had a candy stand, and he had the cockeye too.
Shingata.
You write that down. He had a candy stand and a newspaper stand in the Department of Motor Vehicles, and he also sold driver license photos. In those days, you had to take your own photo for the driver's license, and then
bring your own photo in.
Yeah, you had to take your own photo, and then they would, put it onto the license for you. And this guy had, one eye going that way and one eye going that way. So he was seeing two. I don't know what he was seeing, but if you tried to steal something from him, he knew you. He knew what you were doing.
He knew where you were going before you got there.
He knew what was going on, man. You'd say it. He'd start screaming at people. Set that down. It was the first time I ever remember watching something like that and saying, who the freak would steal from a Shingata? Who would steal from this guy?
The all-seeing eye.
You have to go to steal from this guy. And that brings us to the sad case of Ronald Romney McDaniel.
I think it's the first thing the NBC's done in a long time that shows that they were listening. Because for a whole weekend they said nothing while the revolt began. By the time Rachel Maddow got a hold of it on Monday night, they were cooked because she did a hot 30 minutes on it that was quite amazing.
Yeah, it was fascinating if you're in the broadcasting business or follow it. It was fascinating to watch from Morning Joe on Friday to Rachel Maddow on Monday night just eviscerate their bosses.
The executives who had thought about it and decided, this is the way we want to go. This is going to be good. You wait and see. I know you're a little upset now, but you just wait and see.
I thought, did you see Meet the Press on Sunday?
I saw the highlights, yes.
That was probably one of the more interesting shows that you will ever watch. If you haven't watched the whole thing, go back and watch it. Because you see somebody put in a horrible position of having now to question who you didn't know when you booked the interview, but now somebody who has the possibility of being your coworker.
We are not colleagues. I don't know who you are, and I don't know where you came from, and I don't know what you think you've done, but we are not colleagues. You are not welcome here.
Well, it was funny because you could tell that from Kristen Welker's, who was the host of Meet the Press. You could tell that from her demeanor and her questions, but she never really came out and said it. Chuck Todd, who many people don't like, I don't know why. Maybe he's a little full of himself, maybe not. But Chuck Todd had the standing and the nerve to not worry about what anybody was thinking. And he came on in the roundtable part of the show and just tore the bosses. And he did it right. He didn't name anybody.
They knew.
But they knew who he was talking about. And I've never seen a revolt of on-air people like I did at NBC this weekend.
They just would not have it.
Yeah, usually, that stuff is done behind closed doors and, in meetings and this guy's agent calls up the head of the network and says, my guy isn't going to work with him and da. This was this was probably the closest thing you'll ever see to an all-out mutiny on a broadcast network.
And the chairman of Universal said, well, we've given this some thought and we chewed it over. And I tell you what, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it after all.
Yeah. And I buy, a lot of course, right-wing media is looking at this and saying, well, she was run out by the liberals at MSNBC and at NBC. It's their fault. I don't agree with that. This is the woman who was named as an unindicted co-conspirator.
As she was, as she remains.
As she remains in what could be one of the crimes of the century.
Well, let's get her on and see what she thinks, Vinny. Let's get her on and do some happy talk.
Talking to anybody. I think they probably wrote her a check for the full amount of her contract, and she signed an NDA. I don't know what I had heard something like $300,000 or something like that. They probably wrote her a check for $500,000
as a goodbye gift.
Said, get lost. Don't say anything to anybody about anything. Don't get interviewed. Here's $500,000. And you don't have a non-compete, so you can go to Fox tomorrow. Although Fox doesn't want her either.
Oh, no, Fox doesn't want her because she's a Rona McDaniel now. She's a little stungada or whatever it is with her eyes.
Well, she's out of favor with Trump. And Fox isn't going to hire anybody who is not in favor with their candidate.
True enough.
Now, she may wind up at Newsmax, or she may wind up at, what's the other one there? AMC, AHC, whatever,
Wherever
whatever.
Mario Como managed to get a job.
Yeah. So she'll probably wind up at one of those places.
Or Chris Cuomo, actually.
Yeah, Chris Cuomo, where 0.0% of houses watch it. You got to be looking for it to find it. It's not going to just come up on your dial.
And they have an interesting format. They don't have enough money to pay producers to make up stories, so you have to make up your own story on the spot.
They don't have prompters.
There's a fire in Philadelphia. And I've got 5 seconds to make the story about why it's there. Why is it burning?
We bought all this B-roll, and you just got to make something up to match the B-roll.
Just roll the B-roll, and I'll talk over it. There you go.
Just roll it, and I'll make up a story while we're, But it was quite funny to see the brass at NBC literally come to their knees.
They can tread water. It didn't look like they could, but they actually treaded water for the weekend and said, this is going to blow over. It's going to be fine.
Well, the guy I feel most sorry for in this whole deal was longtime NBC New York anchor Chuck Scarborough.
What did the Chucker do?
Well, the Chucker had a big party on Friday night at the Rainbow Room. They celebrated Chuck's 50 years in New York City television.
That's quite a record. How did he mess it up?
He and Jim Kerr both hit their 50-year strides at the same time. And I can't imagine there were many NBC executives, even though they're in the same building. All you got to do is get on the elevator and go up to the Rainbow Room, the observation deck. I can't imagine that many NBC executives were around Friday night.
Nowhere to be found. Can we get a comment, sir? We got nothing to say.
We got nothing. We got nothing for you. Go say hello to Chuck. Go talk
Give
to
my
Chuck.
best to the Chucker.
The poor guy is supposed to have this party. All these executives are supposed to be there, and everybody's huddled in a side room. Like, what are we going to do?
I told you this would happen. This is all your fault. Well, I was trying to be fair. Yeah. Now you know what fair looks like.
Yeah, somebody's going to lose their job over that, man. There's just somebody is going to get pasted.
Well, I'm saying NBC executives are dropping like the ones at Boeing because they make the same kind of decisions.
Well, it goes, first of all, why would you hire somebody? I mean, I don't mind that you hire conservative voices. I mean, I think it's good to have balance. Otherwise,
yeah, but what's the balance if one side is lying and one side is telling the truth? What's the balance there?
Well, but that's it. There are conservatives, I would think, that do tell the truth. Maybe they skirt a little bit, but there are people. I mean, you could hire Liz Cheney as a commentator. Now, I don't get along. I don't see everything the way she sees it, but I don't. But she's the kind of person I would think that you would hire for a job like that.
You know who's open for a job is Ms. Uhura, the former translator for Shohei Ohtani. He speaks more than one language. He can lie to anybody. He's being sought after by organized crime. It's a perfect guy for the Republican point of view.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting mess, isn't it?
They had never explained how he got the $4.5 million away from Ohtani to give it to the bookie. Can you please explain that to me again?
Yeah, something doesn't.
Did he find it? Did he find it in the kitchen? Was it just there on the counter?
Ohtani was keeping it in cookie jars. He had a cookie jar for every member of the Angels, and then a Mike Scotia cookie jar, and a Joe Hatton cookie jar, and he had all of those cookie jars, and he filled them up with cash. It came out to $4 million. And the interpreter came along, and he just emptied the cookie jars as he needed it. And one day, Ohtani went back because he needed some change for the bus.
Yeah.
And
he was buying it. He was buying the bus.
There was nothing left in the cookie jars.
Well, until that's explained to me, I'd say we haven't completed our investigation.
Yeah,
the LA Times ran an interesting story. It was fascinating. The Angels and the Dodgers played last night at the Big A preseason freeway follies. And the baseball people who've been following Ohtani all this time since he began playing in America for the Angels saw something they had never seen before. They saw him walk from left field to right field unaccompanied by anybody. He was just walking along like a person, like all the other players. He didn't have an assistant. He didn't have a go-to guy. He didn't have an interpreter. He didn't have anybody with him. And he was talking not to the Dodgers, but to his old teammates, the Angels. And people said, we had no idea what Ohtani looked like standing by himself. We had never seen him by himself. He was always accompanied by Mizuhara. He was always going somewhere else. He said, when you play ball with him, he's there for the game, but you never know where he's going to be. He has different assignments. He has a different schedule from the rest of the team. He's not with the team. He and his interpreter talk to the owner, talk to the coach, talk to somebody. They're always separate and apart. They dressed at the same locker. They went on the same. Ohtani couldn't drive until last year, so he was driven everywhere. He was never, ever by himself. He was never, ever unaccompanied. And so for him to not being aware that his $4.5 million went to a bookie just does not ring true. It doesn't ring true at all. And I think we're going to have, I think they've got themselves into a real pickle here, Vinnie, because even if he didn't involve himself with the gambling, he's not involved with his team either. He's a completely separate entity. He travels separately. He does things separately. He works out separately. Everything about him, he's there for the game, but the rest of the time, he is with his staff. And that's not the way to play ball.
Yeah, it goes against what the principles of baseball are supposed to be. It's supposed to be, you don't hang out in a locker room. You hang out in a clubhouse where people are supposed to bond together, get to know each other, become friends. In the old days, it was watch TV. Now it's everybody talks on their cell phones or whatever it is. But you could tell the good clubhouses and the bad clubhouses when you walked into them. The good clubhouses were jovial, and guys were talking to each other, and all 25 guys plus the trainer plus the manager, the coaches, everybody was involved in the common area. The food spread was out. If you go in 2 hours before a game, which is the first opportunity you're supposed to have to go into a clubhouse 2 hours before the game, you would see a much different clubhouse than you would see after the game. There was all different sorts of things going on, but it was a club. They don't call them teams, they call them clubs. Right? And it just seemed like, from what I've read, now I'd never been in the Angels clubhouse when Ohtani was there, but it seemed like it was the thing that the Mets tried to avoid when they were considering signing Alex Rodriguez back in 2000.
What would it do to the team?
what does it do to the team? Number one. Number two, you can't have one player that gets this, and this, and the other players don't get it. It's a recipe for disaster. And I guess you could say, what if the Angels won when Ohtani was there? How did it make guys like Mike Trout feel?
Like he was permanently on the injured list.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Ohtani comes along, and you don't see, Trout's not playing up to his what he's supposed to be. So much so that the owner is looking to dump the team, right?
Well, he's accused of fraud and a number of other things. He's Artie Moreno is a troubled soul.
Yeah, it just seems like it's a shaky situation all around. It just seems to be.
Mike Trout, who could have been one of the all-time greats, just languished with the Angels his whole career. It's a damn shame.
Yeah, he. It's pretty bad when you're playing a major market and you don't get the recognition.
Have you ever seen a potato chip commercial with Mike Trout in it? Ever seen him do anything? Ever?
There was one. What did I see him in? Was it a Wendy's commercial or Dairy Queen or something like that? It's the only thing I've ever seen him in. National type commercial.
I don't recall it.
Yeah, it was like a Dairy Queen. He was in, and he wasn't the only player. It was, I think there were 3 players in it. I forget who the other 2 were, but I know he was pushing Dairy Queen. Because I remember saying to somebody, "Boy, you think he goes to Dairy Queen after every?"
The Dairy Queen in Anaheim. Oh, the Anaheim Dairy Queen. Until you've seen that, you haven't lived.
Till you've been there, you ain't been there.
I made the mistake of going to the Dairy Queen in Wenatchee, and it was a one-time visit. My God.
Yeah, why didn't you like the Dairy Queen?
Well, the burger I bought was substandard. Let's just put it that way. It was not.
Really?
It was not equal to the job.
See, now, when I was a kid, we had a Dairy Queen, and they had the thing called the Brazier, or Brazier, or whatever they call it. And those burgers stunk. But I recently had occasion to go to a Burger King and have a hamburger, and I thought it was quite good.
I think we may have injected a Wenatchee problem into the Burger King, into the Dairy Queen dream.
And I love
the dream of Dairy Queen did not come true in Wenatchee.
Yeah, we have a Dairy Queen just right up the block here, and so I've been there a bunch of times, and except for the fact that they have disinterested high school kids working there, and if you go there at it closes at 10. If you get there at 9:30,
they're closed.
You got like a 30-70 chance to get your order.
And even they don't know if it's going to come true.
Because they're looking to go, man. I mean, they're looking to be out there. So they're cleaning the machines at 9:30. They're like hosing down the machines. Sorry, we only have chocolate left.
From yesterday.
I don't like chocolate. Well,
but I don't like chocolate.
Sorry, everybody likes chocolate. What are you, a commie?
The funny thing about Dick's is nobody's disinterested in Dick's. Everybody's working.
That's the one thing about, they make good money at Dick's. I mean, you can't, it's a burger joint that gives you, they pay you $20 an hour. Once you're there 6 months, you get hospitalization. You get your college college tuition. I mean, Dick's is not a bad job. Dick's is the Spady family that owns Dick's takes care of their people.
Better than working at 2:00 in the morning on a bridge in Baltimore.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of working on any bridge at 2:00 in the morning. I don't even like being on bridges at 2:00 in the morning. Like Mom says, nothing good ever happens after midnight.
Nothing ever good happens. Nope.
Nothing, be off the streets by 11:30. I just think it's sad. I think it's sad because people lost their lives. I think it was an accident. I don't think there was any intentional, um, running of the ship into the pylons like that idiot almost said his name wants you to believe. So you can go click on his website and view all of his other conspiracy theories. I think it was an unfortunate, spectacular accident, and unfortunately, in our lives, with things like bridges and tunnels and so on and so forth, that stuff happens every once in a while.
Especially when you have 100,000 tons running without power.
Yeah, I mean,
Without the ability to navigate.
You have a ship, the lights are blinking on and off. The real heroes in this whole thing were the cops who who got the Mayday call from the ship, and in 22 seconds
they shut that thing down.
They shut the bridge down, stopped the traffic from going over. They saved countless lives. I mean, you want to talk about a professional response.
That's who Joe should see when he visits.
You want to talk about a response that was the exact opposite of some of the other responses we've seen in other cases. I mean, these troopers, these police had their act together. They knew what to do, and they got out there and they did it. They laid their cars across the highway so nobody could get by and shut the bridge down. Otherwise, you might have had 15, 20 cars on that bridge. We forget that a port works 24 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
It's
that's
not
why
like
that's why that big ship was out in the channel.
Yeah, it's not like it's it's a 9 to 5 deal. I mean, 1:00 in the morning, there's trucks going over that bridge to go to the port. There's all sorts of obviously road crews out there filling up potholes.
You know what I thought of? I thought of all the early morning DJs in Baltimore going to work.
Yeah. Well, a little early, but yet, or the overnight guy, and that's not probably a way you go. But yeah, there's a ton of night workers, especially in situations like that, in a place that runs 24 hours. I mean, they got forklift guys and crane guys that are loading trucks, loading containers and unloading containers. That's going on 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And if you're working like at 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, 1:00 is probably the time you jump in your car because nothing's open and you drive across the bridge to the Dairy Queen.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Vinnie, I'm gonna have to cut it for today because I've been called to do an emergency babysitting call. So we're off to Woodland Hills. Going to jump in the shower and take off.
You have the hat, so you're ready to go.
I'm ready to assume the role.
I will see you on Friday if the Lord's willing the creek don't rise.
Don't worry about the creek. Just worry about the pillows around the basement of the bridge.
I'm worried about the bridge. The bridge over the creek is the thing that scares me. All right, man. Listen, take care. Give the grandees a hug for me, and we'll see you on Friday.
It shall be done.
Peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby.
I'm telling you, it's some kind of wine. I'm quoting Big
All right,
Tigerman.
Mikey.
Got to be some
Take
kind
care.
of wine. See ya.
Some kind of wine. Thank you all for listening, too. We always appreciate it. Don't forget, if you're listening on YouTube, to please like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We need to get there, so please help us. Like and subscribe us on YouTube. And until Friday morning at 10 or thereabouts, Mikey and Vinnie signing off. Bye-bye.